The Nikon D850, Nikon's last general purpose DSLR before fully committing to the mirrorless market. So why this camera and why not say a Z7, Z7 II, which are, well, the Z7, certainly the first generation of their high resolution mirrorless cameras, is roughly the same price on the used market. Well, to put it bluntly, I like being able to use AFD lenses because if I ever decide to get, say, go against a Fuji or something, I've got adapters for them for AFD lenses, and AFD lenses, if you don't know, they're the ones that still have the manual aperture controls on the outside of the lens, which means you can then change the aperture without having to have any kind of autofocus whatsoever. And unfortunately, I think the FZ and FZ2 adapters for Nikon mirrorless cameras, their Z mount cameras, do not they're not compatible with AFD lenses. Basically, you put an AFD lens on there and it's a manual focus lens, because unless basically the G mount lenses, the G lenses, which are basically like Canon EF lenses, they have no manual control for the aperture on the lens. It's all done via the camera, and that's because the motor is in the lens. Whereas AFD lenses, there is no motor in the lens. It's all controlled via a little lever type thing you can see if you ever take the body mount off a Nikon DSLR, so like a D6, 7, 800, 810, any of those, 850, the 780, 750, they all have that little pin that's on the bottom. It's on the left hand side when you're looking, when it's facing you. It's on the left hand side at the bottom of the mount. So yeah, that's why I went. Well, that's one reason why I went for the D850 over the Z7. The other being, it's a DSLR, and you get a lot more bang for your buck with these cameras. And what do I mean by more bang for buck? So yes, you can record 4K video. No, it doesn't have IBIS, but the menu system is a lot simpler because you don't have all that extra stuff on the menus for all the various extra video features that you get in modern mirrorless cameras. They're just not there in a DSLR. So it's a more simplified camera. It's still a top quality camera, I have to say. Just look at these photos. I mean, they're just fantastic. I shot everything at ISO 400, and most of it I shot at f8. Some I shot wide open at f2.8, and this was all shot on a Tamron 28 to 75 millimeter f2.8 zoom lens camera. It's also a macro lens. I didn't realise that, so you can actually get quite close with this camera, and gets, even with it set at f8, because you're so close and you're filling the whole sensor, you still get that great depth of field. But what really got me was this lens. When it came out, as it's an AFD lens, you can imagine it's right early on in the whole life of digital cameras, when Nikon's cameras were like 12 megapixels. That's the D700, I think it's 12 megapixels. So this lens was basically designed for cameras that had a third of the resolution of the D800, the D850, and I was amazed just how sharp this lens actually is, to be quite honest. I thought I was going to get nice sharpness in the middle and a lot of softness in the rest of the images, but that just hasn't happened. It's been pretty sharp throughout. Obviously at the edges there will be fall off, maybe a little bit of vignetting. I added a bit of vignetting post production as well to a lot of the images, because I like to be able to draw the viewer into the actual centre of the image, because I do tend to put what I want people to look at in the middle of the image. It's just the way I do things. So yeah, this camera, it costs just over £1,200 used. I bought it from Park Cameras in Burgess Hill. Reason I bought it from them is basically I've had a couple of quality control issues with cameras I bought from another major used equipment provider. I won't say who they are, but you probably know who they are because they sponsor a lot of videos here on YouTube with a lot of other creators. Basically, I bought a D800 and a D600, and in both cases that pin I spoke about earlier for AFD lenses for whatever reason wasn't working. So lenses I knew worked just didn't work on the cameras. I even put a 24 to 120 G lens on it, and that one, it wouldn't even focus that one, so there was something wrong on both of those cameras. So I had to send them back, even though they were listed as excellent on the website. So yes, a bit upsetting. But going back to this camera, so whenever you go and look on the listings for these cameras, it always says XQD and SD card slot. The XQD card slot is also a compact flash type B card slot, and that's the most popular type of compact flash that are in a lot of the more modern cameras now. They go in things like Canon R5, R5 Mark II, the Nikon Z9, I think they're going to Z8, I'm not entirely sure about that. The Z7 II, Z6 II, and the Z7 and the Z6, which were originally, again, XQD, but again, it's exactly the same form factor. You just have to make sure when you, whatever version of the camera you get, you check that the firmware is as up to date as possible, because you update the firmware and that changes it from being an XQD card to being compact flash type B, which is what you want. Now, I've had no issues with this camera since I used it. It's just been a dream to use. I bought a spare battery just in case, but I didn't even use half the battery in this. Now, I was out for like 3 hours. Incredible. So what impresses me about this camera is the dynamic range. Obviously, that Nikon sensor. It's basically the biggest selling point I think about this camera is that sensor is just awesome. I shot one stop underexposed, so I made sure, because it was quite a bright day, I made sure I didn't clip the highlights, because it's always the highlights you don't want to clip. Shadows, you can hide that. You can hide if you clip the shadows a bit, but you just can't do it with the highlights. The dynamic range of the sensor is just fantastic. So you can underexpose by a stop and still pull out loads of details in the shadows. Now, of course, I like my images to have that little slightly grainy effect, which is why I don't shoot at the base ISO. It also means I get a faster shutter speed, so I'm far less likely to get any kind of blur or motion blur. So images are sharper as well. Again, I think I've mentioned in a previous video about, I called it dual ISO, but it's dual gain ISO. And what I mean by dual gain is, if you go onto a particular website, you can see how each of the different cameras that are on there handle noise, and it's like a little line graph, and it has peaks and troughs, and where the troughs are is where you put a higher ISO in, but it actually has the same noise as a lower ISO. So you get the benefit of using a higher ISO with faster shutter speed, but you're not sacrificing so much image quality. You do sacrifice a little bit of dynamic range, but you know, it's a bit of, well, basically, what are you prepared to lose? A bit of dynamic range if you gain more image quality. So I think I might have mentioned earlier, the D850 does shoot 4K video. Obviously, it's not stabilized because there's no IBIS on the camera, so you either have to shoot a tripod, a gimbal. Stabilized lens might work for you, but I don't have any stabilized lenses, unfortunately, and I'm not really that much into video. I do like shooting video occasionally, but photography is my main aim. So who is this camera for? Right. Well, this is the big thing. So a couple of years ago, I would have said you'd have to be a serious photographer to buy this camera because of the price. Even used, the prices were a lot higher than they are now. But now you can get this super super top quality camera for less than £1,500. So that's less than a lot of the mirrorless cameras that are out there. Plus you have the benefit of the lenses you can put on it. There are so many native lenses from Nikon, Tamron, Sigma, a whole bunch of other ones I don't even have to mention. Plus you can put legacy lenses on there, pretty much Nikon F mount manual lenses from the film days you can put on there as well. So there's that extra bonus. It's cheap enough now for, I would say, sort of like the Pros. I think that's what they call them. It's amateurs that take it very, very seriously. So it's not just like I'm going to go out and take some pictures and maybe I like someone, I'll post them up on Instagram. It's serious, serious photographers that maybe they want to start to try and make money from photography while still having a day job. This is a brilliant camera for that. It's brilliant for studio portraits. You slap on a good portrait lens like an 85mm, 50mm, any of those sort of lenses, even a macro lens. You can do macro photography with this, no problem. So studio work, no problem. Landscapes, again, no problem. Nature, no problem. I would not use this for any kind of fast-moving sport, so like motorsport, anything like that. And I wouldn't use it for shooting, say, birding, when you're going out trying to capture birds, because they can move quite quickly. And obviously, the buffer on this isn't the best in the world, but it's not designed for that. It's designed for, it's sort of a general all-rounder camera. Perfect if that's what you're looking for. So yeah, I think I'm going to end the video here. But if you've got any questions, by all means, do drop them in the comments. Thank you.